Preparing live stream.
Early on, I worked at Oregon Food Bank. I've seen people struggle with that. That's why my plan puts new outreach. That's why my plan puts new outreach.
It's just a conversation with a fellow clown. It's not very serious, we're clowning around. It's really just a clown-versation.
Hello, everybody. I'm hoping that you can hear me and see me. Welcome to a second season of Clown-versations, and there is a very weird echo going on, and I don't exactly know where it's coming from, but I'm going to try and deal with it because I imagine it could be quite annoying. Okay, hold on there, folks. Okay, hold on there, folks. I'm going to plug in my headphones so that doesn't happen. Okay. So if you're watching, you are very welcome. This is Barnaby King from Clown Spirit, and this is the second season of Clown-versations. And I'm very, very excited about my first guest today. She is somebody who I have, I suppose, just always thought of as the reason and the inspiration that I chose to go down this route of clowning, which, you know, has been my entire life. So I owe her a huge amount of thanks and gratitude, because I love clown and I love what I do, and I'm extremely I feel a great sense of honor and delight every day in being able to do it. And it's all down to Sue Morrison. And that fateful day in 2003, I think, when she came to Leeds and taught a workshop, thanks to Anthony Haddon, another old colleague who brought her over. And, you know, when I stepped into that room on that first day and started to listen to what Sue had to say about clowning, I realized that I had this completely different idea about what clown was. A completely erroneous idea, and that it was this totally other thing, which was all about play. It was about presence. It was about connection. It was about the sacred, the spirituality. It was a healing process. And it was also just this incredible power that I felt I was able to sort of just tap into, and at times hold in my hand as I faced the audience on my own. Anyway, long story short, I jumped in to the whole thing, went to Toronto, did the full baby clown or clown through mask course with Sue the next year. Went on and did Joey and Auguste, which is a follow-up course. And then by a series of kind of accidental events, I ended up making a solo show with Sue, which I toured for about the next 5 years. And, you know, my life has continued along this track of clowning ever since. So there's so much more I could say about Sue. I mean, that was a very personal introduction because she has done so much globally with so many different people. And we're going to talk about all those things right now. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Sue Morrison to the stage. If she is there, you may switch on your video and unmute yourself, Sue.
I did it.
You did it.
Again, twice in one day. Good.
Hello.
Hi, Harvey.
Hi, Sue.
So are you not telling me, you know, you have to tell when, you know, that first day in class when you were like, well, I don't know if I'm coming back. You can't ask me to do this. That was so funny.
I didn't mention that part, did I?
Yeah, but it was so great. It was funny. And you came back. So
I did come back. I think it was like fear. It was a lot of fear.
it was like a lot like fear.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, well, it's so lovely to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us on Clown-versations.
Happy to be here, Barbie.
Yeah. Now, I always ask this question, Sue, so I'm going to have to ask it to you as well. And I hope you don't mind telling the story for the millionth time. But, you know, how did this clowning bug, if that's the right way to describe it, how did it get to you? How did you discover the world and discover that it was your passion and your world?
Yeah. Well, I think to start off, I would have to say that I never liked clowns. I was kind of held hostage at a parade once when I was a little girl. And anyway, I never liked clowns, really. And I was doing, I don't know, I don't remember, Barbie. I was doing a lot of improv in Toronto, a lot of improv, and I loved it. And one evening I was out at a theater and there was like this shitty little piece of paper that said clown through mask, had a, silhouette of Richard Pochinko's face. And I thought, wow, I'm very intrigued by mask, but clowning, what, I don't know. And so I phoned the number and the woman said, well, we started the class, but you can come if you want. And I thought, oh man, if this is some airy fairy artsy fartsy thing, I'm out. So, and I'm there in this crappy studio, and Richard walked into the room, and Jody said, Richard, this is Sue. She wants to, and he was like, yeah, welcome, let's go. And that was it. And then I was just, it's like a virus, it is that bug thing. It's a virus. And then you do it because you can't not do it. There's no other way of being. And then it starts to, get in your life and whatever. It's in your head, your heart. And because I had the question of, I wonder what it's like to work from my heart and not just from my head, because comedy for me had been that from there. And and then so that's what the kind of universe threw in my path. And so always acknowledging and gratitude to Richard for everything.
Yeah. What kind of, can we just talk a little bit about Richard? What kind of a person was he, and what was his journey into clown?
For one thing, he looked like a football player, which I was very comfortable with because I used to be a trainer for a men's football team. So I was like, I can handle this guy. Okay. I don't know what I can say or should say. Doing a lot of, he was at Lecoq, and it was, I guess, the 70s. And he got a grant from Canada to go and study different people in Europe. And while he was there, he started having these dreams, and where he was shown a book, and I don't want to, he was very not airy fairy, you know what I mean? Like he was not, I don't know how to say it. He was just very down to earth about extraordinary things that happened, that happened in people's paths. And that relaxed me. So, because I had weird things that happened. And so anyway, he just seemed to, so Lecoq said to him at one point, you should go back to Canada and you should make your own form of clown. And I thought that was pretty terrific. And while he was there, he worked saw Grotowski, I think probably Peter Brook, he was touring around and just kind of taking. And I think because Canada is a new country, I know Indigenous people is old, I know that. But it's a country made up of a lot of traditions. So we can choose from the traditions. We don't have to be held down by anything, but to be, but to take what works for in our world, in our life, in our work. And so I think that's why Lecoq probably said that to Richard. And then Richard carried on, was studying on the West Coast, actually, with Barry Rolfe. Is she still out there alive? I don't know.
I'm not sure. It's a good question.
Yeah. Anyway, he was doing a lot of mask work. Found himself opening. At a certain point, he encountered John Smith, who was his guide and who kind of indoctrinated him into, I don't know what to say anymore, indigenous, First Nations, Native American, Indian philosophy of clown, which is, if you ever face all directions of yourself at once, you could only laugh at the beauty of your own ridiculousness. So that's a relief. Nobody's perfect, and we can go out and our failures can be the most celebrated things, about us. How we navigate them or survive them or don't survive them.
Something really interesting about, because I've heard this story so many times, and I'd love to hear it again. And there's something that different that occurred to me this time as I was listening to it, which was, and maybe it's to do with the times we live in now, and it has to do with, you associated yourself, or you connected with Richard because you felt you were both down to earth, kind of like straightforward, grounded people who weren't airy fairy, as you describe it, or artsy fartsy, or kind of woo woo at all. you were really just like, this is how the world is. And yet you were both really aware of these other forces or other energies and experiences that you were having. And it's interesting because even as you describe them, your I think maybe your audience is much more willing to accept those things than you are, in a way. It's like there's a sense of like, oh, do I sound weird if I say these things? But I think we've gone so far now that it doesn't sound weird at all. It sounds
normal. It's just my normal life,
Yeah.
That was, I think, I don't want to speak for Richard, but I can say for myself that, it just is my life. It's not like this other thing that I'm, hoping to experience, or, it's not an outside thing to me. It's very much, it's just part of me. So if you normalize it, it's, you can work with it. I remember having a very scary experience at one time, and I went into clown class that night, and he said, I said, oh, Richard, this happened, and oh my God. And he said, oh, I remember the first time I met my guides. No problem, let's go. And I laughed, and it was like, okay, I'm not, that happened, and that's okay that happened, and let's go. And I really am like, let's go. Whatever, wherever. Barnaby making your solo show, which was going to be a duo, and then through different things that happened, I think that, we've created a really lovely show. There's things about it that I miss, that, of course, having your piano lost by the airlines and stuff when New York was terrible. Anyway, but it's, and that's clown, isn't it? It's from the ashes, from the failure, from the ashes or whatever, you've got to rise up. You keep going. It's the thing. Even if you don't think you have hope anymore, there's a certain amount of resilience to fail to say, I give up, or I give in, or I think we just keep, if it's in you, if it's really you.
So much of what you say in workshops and always is kind of applicable to life as much as it is to art, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So what is it? I often feel like you would be a wonderful life coach, or one of those people who,
oh my God. No. God, no. For one thing, I think I'm a control freak, so I don't know. Be like, you do what I say. No, so that wouldn't be good. Well, plus
but doing it
what?
Doing it through clown though is so
But then
Such
that's
an
a manipulation, isn't it? Like, I don't want to feel, when I work and when I've worked with different teachers, I've never wanted to feel like I'm being manipulated into something. It's like, I want to feel like there's an invitation to it. There's an offering, but it's not a manipulation. And even when I go to a show, it's like, if I'm watching a show and it's like, this is bullshit, or I feel like I'm being so manipulated here, or it's so obvious here. I really don't like that. So, I mean, I don't like it as an audience. I don't like it as a student, or in the work, just in life. Who wants to feel that? And you nose it, with your nose. You can like, yeah, no. For one thing, you've got to be smarter, and probably not. So, in some things, I can't do math, but or computers, but some things. Anyway,
well, you figured out Zoom.
Yeah, book club last night. Woo.
We had to, right?
Yeah.
So, with Clown Through Mask. So Richard kind of did a version of Clown Through Mask that incorporated these different things, and some of the exercises were drawn from Lecoq or at different places, right? But he kind of
it's like he went in the back door of all of them. I feel like he turned them inside out. And whether we're working with color or waving goodbye to someone you love, or any of these whatever these exercises or processes are, before we even can get to wear a mask or create a mask or wear a mask. There are things that are inside out, and I love that. So, and it's so for clown, right? In a we're contrary. So in a way, we have to go in, because, and we don't, like, first you have to do a certain amount of work in Clown Through Mask, like on the personal level, very, very, just a soupçon of that. And then you can move on to masks, which you don't want anything from your personal life. You can recognize an emotion or a feeling or a quality, but if your grandmother comes in the improvisation, you wait. And because the expression of something that isn't us is much easier than trying to express how we felt about grandma or something. It takes sentimentality out of it, which I love emotion, but I don't like sentimentality. It's a bit boring and manipulative.
And sentimentality comes from being too identified with.
I think when you love the thing too much, or that's the thing that you're deciding to put out as the reason for why you are, which is crazy. Actually, I'm a very sentimental person, but there's it's that.
It's interesting that you're sentimental, but you don't like that in your work. You don't put that into your work.
No, because you can't attach yourself and define yourself by one thing, because we're not one thing. We're a lot of things, and that's why the masks are not finite experiences, but they're the beginning of, for example, one north or two south. They're the beginning of these directions. And the masks continue for me to be alive because they're always going to be, potentially, they're in new situations all the time. So you can't limit them. You can't know. It's like, well, my clown would never do that. Or, oh, no, I don't think clown does that. It's like, really? Clown could be the president of the United States? Well, he's not actually, but you can't limit it. It's a very unknowable, constant experience working in clown, and that is what I think I really love about it. Because I don't know, and because when you make a show, we have to have the script. We've got like 7 or 8 or 10 pages, but the script is always the it's an embarkation point. It's the reason we come out on the stage, and it's the reason people come in. But I'm not limited to those, those moments that are already in the script, which are hopefully quite wonderful. But so that when you potentially improvise during your show or your number, people won't know what what is the script and what is, and you know, and what is of the moment sort of thing. And so that's why I think improv is a great bodybuilding exercise for clown, to understand the arc of a show, the arc of a number.
Yeah. There's so much in what you're saying that I want to pick up on, that I don't know where to start, but I want to go back a little bit to the mask, and the idea of the mask being unlimited, because in Clown Through Mask, for people who maybe we can just give, for people who are listening who don't have the context, is there a way that you can kind of describe the Clown Through Mask workshop that would help them sort of understand how it works?
So far, no. Even when there's like a blurb on the flyer, it's a very like, I don't know what actually happens in that thing, but whatever. But it's a process of work that where you make a series of 6 masks facing 6 directions. And for me, it's the building of a personal mythology. I mean, that's the best way I've been able to describe it. So, and it's not what you think you know about yourself or how you think you will work really well, but it's actually how you do work well, you know, and what people really, what you can learn, or experience is a better word, maybe, what you can experience, what an audience can experience, and how to take an audience into your world. Because there should be, you know this from our many hours together, but the 4 elements would be, you know, to present yourself, take me into your world, transform me, and bring me back with a new awareness. Because I feel at a clown show, you should never leave that show in the same state as when you arrived, you know, like really there's a shift, you know. It's not like you leave and you go, well, let's go for a hamburger now. It's like something shifts, and in some way you feel that possibly the performer was speaking about you or to you or about your experiences. So they're telling your story in this other way, you know.
And that's that's planted. I think maybe you see if you agree that is planted right from the very beginning in the fundamental present yourself exercise. Like when somebody does that exercise and they just come out and they stand with the nose and a hat and they just connect with each person in the workshop. When you're watching and experiencing that, you feel that it's all about you. When you're in the audience, that it has that same quality.
Absolutely. And it's not like we have to agree, you know, on what that story was or what that experience was about. The only thing that, you know, it's like when you look at a painting where I don't want everybody to say this painting is about this, and you can tell because of the darkness in the corner and the little girl is actually the daughter of the painter. It's like, you know, it's an art that tells your story and makes you feel seen. And I think that's a lovely thing for people to be seen in an individual way. Just, I'm seeing you, and I'm not just lumping you into a demographic or that kind of thing. I'm seeing something beyond whatever the accoutrements are, you know. So you see the potential. It's not the idea that I have of your potential or your idea of your potential, which is always a limited, you know, well, always, probably most of the time, it's very fixed, you know, it's probably a pretty fixed idea. But when the conversation happens, when you connect, you know, with those energies with another person, with the audience, then you're in a conversation, and that's always more interesting than a monologue. It's a dialogue.
For me, Sue, it's such an interesting experience every time I perform, even if it's just getting up to do that exercise or doing a whole show, is that there's always that dance between working from the heart and the energy and the flow and getting out of your own way to just let things
arrive and depart, really.
Yeah. And then on the one hand, and that's what we want, right? And then on the other hand, that voice that starts to worry and tell you, oh, this bit that just didn't work, or you haven't got connection right now, or it's not flowing right. I'm not getting the
But
laughs in the right place. And then you start
mean, I
getting your
think-
head.
I think a great thing for us to be able to do is to stand in that moment, you know, to think on the outside, right? We don't try to hide the failure or but take a moment of accepting or acknowledging or dealing with, and it could just be like a split second, and it just needed to have that moment, which is just really a moment of vulnerability and humanity, really. And because I don't want to watch something that's so choreographed that it could exist whether as an audience member I'm there or not. You know, I want to be part of what is happening, you know, this evening, whatever. So yeah, it's also when this thing comes, you know, people say, well, how do I know which is the right impulse or what, you know, well, you got to just exercise, you got to work a lot. But one thing to think is, or to feel is like, is this making the moment more, or is this making the moment less? Is this making is this taking me to the next place, you know, or not? And if it's making you or the show smaller, then it's obviously not. But if it's enriching the experience, then yes. And you have to really, when you're working audience, because I really love to have in every show that I, you know, create with people, you know, some audience participants, some audience action. And so you have to learn how to also kind of see who really will wants to be there or participate in that way. So you have to, you know, you can't force or attack people, and I've seen that happen in clowns. Pretty scary.
Totally. Yeah, thank you for that. I'm just gonna reach out to people watching and say hi. We've got quite a few people watching, so I would love if everyone would just write into the chat on the YouTube live, say hi, maybe let us know where you are, your name, and anything, and I'll read a few things out just to let us know you're there and to be part of the conversation, right? Because the whole point of this is that it's a clown-versation. I want people to be able to participate, to feel part of that conversation. And I will definitely put some questions to Sue if you put them into the chat there, or just say hi. You probably can't see the chat, Sue, because you're just in the Zoom, and I've got the YouTube stream open on another.
No, there's no. Oh, here's chats, but I don't see any. So
no, because they're chatting in the YouTube. So Karen says hi, dear Sue. Karen from Albuquerque.
Oh, Karen, great. Okay, yeah.
Carol Walsh in Ireland.
Carol. Oh, in Ireland. Oh my God.
Christina Shonkweiler. Do you remember?
Oh yeah. Yes, of course. Yes.
From our from San Francisco, yes. I think. Christina, right? Lee's watching from Northwest England.
I don't know that person. Do I know that person?
You may not. He's an old student, an ex-student of mine. Excellent clown. Christina says, I'm loving hearing you talk again about the clown through mask process, Sue. Tara Vandergore, watching from Rockland County, New York, have long wanted to learn more about and from Sue Morrison. Yeah. John Farley. Hey, John.
Oh, John,
I just saw a
telephone.
I just saw a beautiful picture of a show that you've just done the lighting design for it in Portland, John. It looked very awesome. So congrats.
He is such a multi-talented guy. He's amazing.
Yeah, really. I love all the vintage telephones.
Isn't that hilarious?
John Legerman in Montreal. Hi, Sue. Great to see you and hear your wise words.
Yeah.
Linda from Mexico. I'm new in this field. Thank you for sharing your experiences and perception. I'm really enjoying your conversation. Dance, oh dance. Hello from West Lynn, Oregon. Just be. Well, it's wonderful to have you all there. And if any of you have any questions for Sue, just pop them into the chat and I will read them out. And then Sue will answer them if she feels like it.
Well, you go ahead first, Barnaby. I told you to write
Yeah.
your questions down.
Yeah. So I wanted to come back to the mask thing. There was a comparison. I remember having a conversation with you once that was really interesting about Commedia masks and the difference between the masks that we create in Clown Through Mask and Commedia masks. And I remember saying something like, well, Commedia masks are very fixed, and our masks are very fluid. And you kind of corrected me, as I remember, and you said, well, actually, even the Commedia masks don't have to be fixed because there are endless possibilities within those as well. So what is it?
What is
you
it?
Remember that?
Well, I probably meant it's like you don't, because there are certain people that are harlequino, there are people that, el doctore, pantalone. I mean, there are people that really live that or emulate that. I mean, that's a very natural sense of source for them. And so, I think anything that you play the idea of is a limiting thing. That's when it becomes not fluid. And it's the same with your mask. If you start saying, well, again, I don't think my mask would do that. It's like, yeah, I think it could do anything. You can't assign a limit to any of these things. They, like Commedia exists in a language of, I don't like the word character, but I don't know what you would say, personality or something, and like a fixed point. They have something that they're after, whether it's the woman or the money or whatever, to make a fool of the boss. So, but how you do that, you have, if you're not Arlecchino, you can't play Arlecchino. If you don't have that, cooking in you as a release point, sort of, well, you just, that's why there are some that are fantastic and some that are like, ooh, that looks like a bad idea of something.
Sort of playing against type or playing against.
Well, not even playing against the type, but you're playing the idea of the type, and I just find ideas are generally very, very, can be very small or limiting. And I think it's interesting to look at when you have ideas, where can that take you, as opposed to, oh, that puts me here. This idea, this is what I do. I'll kick him in the ass every time he bends over. There's got to be, if you just do that, that's an automatic thing. And I think Commedia is also very improvisational, although it's also very classic. So I'm a Commedia expert. I'm sure Commedia people are crying right now when I'm saying things like that, but
I'm just looking at some things that people are writing again. So let's talk a little bit about, if you wouldn't mind, about Joey and Auguste, because I think the way that you approach and the way that you talk about these two, what do you even call them? They're not masks, they're somethings. Joey and Auguste.
You would say, well, for me, I speak about them as the ultimate victim and the ultimate manipulator. So the Joey tends to be the ultimate manipulator, and the Auguste, to me, tends to be the ultimate victim. And there's great power in both of those things. There's nothing politically correct in any of that, in any of that relationship. So there's also great victimization in the manipulator as well, because the manipulator's got to keep he's got to keep the idea, the scene or whatever. He's bring the conflict, bring the thing to be conflicted about in, or she. And so that's Joey and Auguste for me. And typically, again, we don't play the idea of what that is, because that is so limited. But what we can do, because within each mask that we make, there are two sides. There's an experience and an innocence. And for us in clown, we really want to get experience after. We do it experience first, and then we do innocence. But ultimately, I think you want experience after innocence, because that means you've survived something, you've learned something, you know, and still exist, or still keep going, you know. So yeah, Joey and a Goose is like that. But I also, people used to assign, okay, you're a Joey, and oh, you're a Goose. And, you know, my experience has been that we all have both of us, both sides within us, you know. And yeah, so I'm interested in that. I mean, it might be that maybe one you play with more pleasure than the other, and that's fine. But it's also like a Goose always knows that there is love for the Joey, but the Joey doesn't always realize that there's love for the Auguste, you know, that she or he can forget that at times. But anyway, I like to play in a more inclusive way. I do have that workshop, but ultimately it's great to see people working both sides of that psyche, you know. It's amazing what comes out and how much power is in both places, you know.
Lindsay in Reno.
Oh, Lindsay. Oh, she said,
I'm looking at my 6 masks as you speak, realizing there is so much there still I haven't explored, and feeling a new inspiration and excitement.
Wow. Oh, Lindsay, because you were going to come to Brazil, Lindsay, and then there was a visa thing. And I'm sorry we haven't been able to work more together. I look forward to the next time. Maybe Spain.
So what was it like for you, Sue? What have you noticed about clowning, or what do you think about the sort of effect of the pandemic and COVID on the world of clown? Have you has that crystallized into anything for you yet, or is it just like let's move on and get back to where we were?
Well, I think there's no getting back to where we were, that's for sure. But I have to say, like when the pandemic hit, I was like, whew, I need a holiday, I need a break. I could never give myself that. But I was like, okay, great. So I enjoyed probably the first year. I cleaned a lot of closets, you know, read a lot of books, laid around, got fatter. And I thought, but then after, I was like, oh man, okay, something is really away from me right now. Yeah, I think that's the best way to say it. I felt away because I guess there's time. I mean, I think there's times where clown is great. It's perfect. It's just what we need. And then I think there's times like that it's not appropriate, you know, especially if it's not done in a you know, really sensitive way. So I have to say, for me, I wasn't feeling so clowny. Like I just kind of went into a quiet cycle. And honestly, I would have to say that. And I know a lot of people went on Zoom and were teaching, and I was like, what I can offer is not, you can't do it on Zoom. Like it's just, you know, it's just not the venue for it. And I think probably like what it offered, I think, was for people to, again, to at least be able to, you know, engage a little bit and see each other. And but I think I don't know if that's I don't know. Well, I don't see a lot of it happening now, so I don't know.
Is the death of a queen one of those times when it's not appropriate to clown, do you think?
I have to say, you know, because the thing for me in clown, and this sounds extremely sentimental and hokey, but it's got to be about love. And I know that's so hokey sounding. And I actually saw a comment from a guy who's a clown, and I was like, and it was so rude. You know, there's time, you know, that's just rude. It's like, just because you're a clown or you're whatever, or we whatever teach clown, doesn't give you carte blanche to do or say anything. I think timing, and that is the secret of comedy, you know, and I think there's a timing thing. And you know, I've been to funerals where people were laughing, you know, at times, And then people were during the same funeral, you're crying, Richard's funeral, for example. Yeah, I just think people are stupid, really.
What was it? Somebody,
Stupid.
I don't know who it was who said, comedy equals tragedy plus time.
Yeah, I don't know if that was Woody Allen. Yeah, I mean,
Maybe it was Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Time. Maybe we should replace time with timing.
Yeah, depends how microscopic you're going to go. I don't know. I think there's, I don't know. I think there's timeliness, and also what are the shows going to look like that we're coming out of this with, I don't want to go and see a show particularly about COVID and people dying and our hospitals under and all the old people that have died and out of neglect and whatever, but a clown can come and say something stupid about it. That's really rude. I think. I don't know.
Do you have a lot of hospital clowns who come to your workshops? Do you know a lot of hospital clowns?
Well, yes.
That's something that I have really avoided in my life. Like, I just can't imagine it in that situation of kind of tension and stress, having to clown in that. And yet people do, and I know that they do, and some of them do an amazing job.
Absolutely. I think if you can make your work or experience about the other and not about what you need, then I think that's a great way to look at it. For example, hospital clowning. Like, this can't be about me wanting to show you that I'm the best juggler ever. It's got to be about what does the room need? I mean, and as clown, I think we're there to serve the room, not to serve ourselves, for sure.
Which comes back to what you were saying about love,
I know it sounds so buggy, but it is really, yeah, it's true. And it's not like romantic love or anything like that. It's about humanity. And I think that when the pandemic was going so strong, I had sort of, and there's been things going on like politically, like in Canada and the States, that I am aware of, that really gives me pause for thought. It's like, I know that's not everybody that's, saying terrible things, but I don't know. I don't know.
Dana Fripp, I don't know if you know Dana Fripp. She says, I've sung at many funerals, and there is something very precious about the family and friends sharing a warm mutual laugh together about their loved one.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure.
So
because you're together on it, right? Because it's a celebration of an experience that you're all having together. And even if there's like sorry, Barnaby, to interrupt, and if there is someone who's a bit on the periphery or a bit not being seen or heard or something, that's also your job to acknowledge that person in not an insisting way, but to acknowledge people that to let them have grieve, for example, or celebrate, how they particularly want to, as long as they're not hurting themselves or other people, right? That's probably the limit for me.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how much people are in general affronted by other people all the time.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, and it's like you're going to be. I'm offending someone right now. I know it. It's like, yeah, and this is really an interesting line for clowns, I think, to watch because there's certainly people that look at what I do and think that's not clown, and I look at other people and I think, well, I don't think that's clown.
Right.
So in a way, it's like I don't even like the labels anymore. I think really Clown Through Mask is like an incredible creative process of creativity and enrichment. And I think that's lovely. I think that's great.
I really want to have time to talk a bit about our process together, the show that we created. And
oh, Barnaby, there's still lines that so stick. Friendship can be one-sided, and I've got to find something to care about, which you totally have now, and your children and your wife and all of that. This is so funny. I have a terrible memory. I can't remember anything, like even what I started at the beginning of a sentence. But I remember some very big, profound moments, Barnaby, creating work with you.
Yeah, there's something about. Well, I'd love to just share really briefly with people watching as well about the process, because I think the process by which we made that show, and that's, I think, the process you use normally is quite unique. And I'd be curious if it's changed over the years at all since then. But it was basically like hours and hours of improvising, sometimes interacting, sometimes just me in the space with you watching. And
it was always a conversation in the space.
Yeah, it wasn't
when it wasn't verbal. So that continued the same. Conversation doesn't have to be verbal. We should have said that.
So you become a kind of implicit audience, so that I'm never speaking to myself. I'm always in conversation. And then, so we compile hours and hours of video material, and then we transcribe it, or I transcribe it.
You transcribe it. I go through a coffee or shopping or something.
Yeah. So, which is grueling and
draining, grueling, absolutely grueling process.
But also very revealing, because you just see, it's important to watch.
Yes. Camera doesn't lie.
Yeah. And you see, and what you're doing is often taking me through the masks, right? When we're in the space improvising, you're calling out different masks and we're going through them.
Yeah.
And then from that transcription of all that material, we spent, I don't know, days.
Yes, days.
Kind of highlighting, circling what we love, and then literally cutting it out and arranging it into different kind of themes or ideas.
Well, you kind of think, okay, here's a thing. We've got the entrance. Oh, we've got reveal of piano or whatever. Oh, whatever. There are moments that I see. You can call them scenes, but it's not a scene. It's just the heading of a moment, and through that arc. So all those, as you're saying, Barnaby, I mean, any lines that we love, and it doesn't matter what they mean, or we're not attaching ourselves in any way to it, except that we loved it, but we're not making it fit any idea that we have. And we think, oh, this would be a nice line to start the show with, or this is a great line to go in the piano. This is a great, so, and then you can, like a puzzle, you think, well, it could fit here or here, but maybe it's going to go here. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of cutting and Scotch tape involved.
Yeah,
So,
I remember it being very, very difficult to make the final decisions about like what would be the first line, for example, and it could be this, it could be this. So many possibilities, and I think we went through 9 or 10 pretty different versions of the script.
Probably because I look at it like, after all of that work that we've done, now you've got to play it, and now we're going to see how to make sure things have serve the logic of the clown, of you, and let's just say you, because you are clown. So that serves the arc of the piece. And sometimes in a show, a line that meant one thing and has a certain reaction can actually mean something else and have a different kind of reaction. And I like that elastic quality to a piece. So, and that's anyway, but it's a very evolutionary thing. I mean, if you played that show with the same, basically the same script as we did, I don't know how many years ago, Barnaby. Like, it'd be interesting to see what your relationship is with that show now.
Would be really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so these shows are not finite things, you know. It's like, oh, I made that show, I got to make another show. It's like, you know what, play this show, find out, because you, there's still a lot of you that I don't know, can happen in this show. More than what you think can happen in the show. And again, that depends on audience and, you know, that kind of thing, or how you feel that night, you know, things are really different.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but I did it in Spanish, translated it into Spanish, and it created these different nuances and jokes. For example, but the word for bird, pajarito, is also the word for male genitalia.
Oh, that's awkward. So pause.
So when I say, "Oh, my birdie's died,"
oh, yeah, quick translation to the audience.
the audience just burst out laughing, and I had no idea why the first time.
But I'd love to see your reaction to them laughing. It's just like, this is not, and then holding up the whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, that's like Thomas Carreño in Peru, obviously speaks Spanish, but we made the show in English. And when he performed it the first time in Lima, he didn't know when he came out. He said, am I doing it in English or am I doing it in Spanish? And I don't know, whatever you like. And he stepped out and just came out in Spanish, and it was quite lovely. So some things that were great in English, not so much. And then other gifts came with the other language. And I think that's interesting. Because, you know, as an actor, you can't just dial in a performance. You've got to work through the whole thing.
Yeah, and Naomi Silman did her show in, I think, 3 different languages. She did Portuguese, Spanish, and English at different times.
I think also Hebrew. So, yeah. I think it's interesting. I mean, it changes the rhythm of things sometimes. Well, of course, it's going to change the rhythm. And that's something to be aware of. But I mean, I'm unilingual, so I can only speak English. I can only tell you what works in English. So
what I'd love to ask you about what shows you've been making lately, or I mean, I imagine during the pandemic that hasn't been possible, so it's been a while.
Well, I was working with Åsa Forsberg in Sweden, except she was coming to Canada to do it, and so we worked one section. We worked like a year or 2 before, and then she was all set to come in March 2020. Is that right? Like, just, you know, when it was just sort of starting, and I was like, I don't know, Åsa, I think you're not going to be able to come. And she's like, I'm coming. I think I'm going to come. And I said, I don't think you can come. Sure enough, then Sweden shut the airports down, and Toronto had already shut airports down. Canada anyway, so yeah, so it's interesting. And then I shouldn't have said her name, but anyway, talking to Åsa, you know, throughout the pandemic, and you know what, you know, where she was at, because she's an amazing performer, and she a very well established company in Sweden. But you know, it's going back to that thing of sometimes during a pandemic, you don't feel very clowny, you know, or it's hard on you in other ways. And so, yeah, we talked about that, but also what had been sort of begun to be created would be kind of, it actually made more sense to us as the pandemic went on than when we started. And that's the thing, Barnaby, I don't know if you've noticed this, but the shows have a prophetic quality. So you make the show and you think you know what the show is about. It's like, that's a show. And then you realize it's your future. You know, it's very much about what's coming to you in your life. Shouldn't have said that, but.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I actually, when preparing to talk to you, I was rereading the script. And it's been a while. since I've read it. And there was some stuff that was like, wow.
That's scary, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, really nice.
You know, the stuff that resonates around, because I was very young. I was in my 20s when I did this. And you can see all of that. I can see all of that angst of the 20s and being like, you know, what is my life going to be? And trying to sort of struggle with my identity at that time. But I feel like a lot of that is really relevant now as I'm in a sort of midlife kind of moment. You know, calling into question all the things that we think of as achievements or
wow, so true. Yeah.
You know, like, who are we? Are we the sum of our actions?
Big silence. Nobody has that. Yeah.
And this thing of wanting to be great, which is I think the underlying theme of the whole show for me was pure genius, right? I want to be great, I want to be fantastic, and I'm just always mediocre.
Oh my gosh. I remember going for a coffee. We took a break and somebody was playing the piano in the upstairs of this coffee shop. And I was like, oh, that's great. And, oh, Barnaby, you play the piano. And you were like, what did you say? You're like, yeah, but I'm not great like that. Or anyway, it was so, you had to be there, but it was so funny.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a big pretext or whatever for the show. I think it was a kind of a clarifying arrival moment of, oh, this is what this show is about. Because I usually have an idea what the show is about. Well, pretty much always. But I don't want, when we're working, I don't want you to have that limitation. You know, I want you to just be, you know, free falling. And, then we find out when we put it in the big blender what it was actually about.
And there's the whole thing of the bird, right? And this inability to notice.
Yeah.
You know, the bird's suffering or the bird's dead, or you know, this mistreatment, abuse of the bird, and then this kind of guilt about, oh, I'm not a good carer. I can't look after anything. You know, I need to find something to care about. And as a parent as well, that has a completely new kind of sting to it, I would say. Shit.
Well, I mean, doesn't that come back to, like, it can't be just your agenda when you're a clown. You learn to work with sort of the agenda of the room, you know, find some place where it's, because that enables conversation. Otherwise it's a monologue, you know, just me at you telling. You know, I want to, as much as I want you to be affected, you know, the audience to be affected and moved or whatever by the work, I also have to be moved and affected by it, you know, but it's good if we both are.
Oh, that's beautiful. So that brings us all full circle to where we started the conversation, right? When we were talking about, because you said very near the beginning that you need the audience to feel different when they leave than when they arrived, right? Because and that those 4 stages in a performance of present yourself, take me into your world, transform me, and bring me back with a new awareness. And so there was this question that arose when you were saying that about transformation. So maybe this would be a good thing to end on. What does transformation mean? And I think you just kind of answered it in a way, but maybe we could sort of riff on that a little bit, because you said that it's not just we don't just want to transform the audience. We don't want to just take them through something. We have to go through something.
So you are given the tools for that when you create your mask and when you wear your mask. You get the 2 sides. You get an experience and an innocent. So they're usually 2 different qualities, emotional or attitude. They're 2 different things. And so what do I want to say about that? So at some point you enter, to begin the turn, you enter the space in either the quality or feeling of the experience or the innocence. So you don't just come in and then start working like 3 seconds later, like you're working all the time. As soon as you enter, you're in, for example, 3 experience. at some point during that turn, something's going to happen, and or you will notice something, or something changes in the number, in the room, in piece, and you change to innocence. It switches, for example, to innocence. So you can go from 3 experience to 3 innocence, or you can go from like 2 innocence to 5 experience, you know, as you build your repertoire, your language, your pedagogy, you know. So so that's transformation. So it's that place, because it's really like the masks are not the clown. The masks, clown really lives in between all of those places, you know, the place between thought and action, panic possibilities, between the thunder and lightning. And it's where everything is possible at any moment. And that can be like an absolute split second, you know, where you transition, and it's from your logic. It's from the logic of I don't know, what do you want to say? Masks, clown, you know, you, the actor. That's what, oh, my language is gone. I'm not used to talking anymore. It enables or facilitates the change of that. So, oh yeah, so that's about transformation for me. And so one really quick story that has been passed down to me from some Indigenous friends, actors. So you can come to the circle and tell your terrible story, and everybody says, poor thing, poor thing. And you come the next night to the circle and you tell your story, and everybody says, poor thing, poor thing. And then the next night you come to the circle and you tell your terrible story, and the circle gets up and moves away from you, because the thing is, you just like telling your terrible story. You don't want to change. You're not actually letting another thing happen. So that's why you can't define yourself by one thing, because you are not one thing. You know, you can't hold on to this idea or this limit or this idea of a characterization. Yeah, you've got to be open to the possibilities of the universe. That sounds hippie, but
was it Abraham Lincoln or somebody like that who said people are pretty much as happy as they decide they're going to be?
Oh,
you know,
I have no idea who said that, but I think that's quite true. Yeah, that's sort of true sometimes.
You know, but just links to what you just said, in that we have this freedom to shift if we choose and want to shift. But so many of us, for some reason, we choose to stay stuck.
Well, I think, and it's not, because I know I certainly fall into that at times. It's like, I can only watch television for 2 weeks. That's it. You know, no, that's happened. So it's, you know, sometimes that's all you can do. Sometimes you got to do the only thing that you can do, but don't believe it's the only thing you can do. You know, sometimes you have to change your, oh, I just had like a deja vu. That's nice. You have to, wow, that's funny. You have to like change your location, change who you're talking to, change something, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think that feels like a really lovely note to finish on, Sue.
Barnaby, I'm so glad we ran into each other in Vienna. That was very fortuitous.
Yeah, me too.
We needed a release. We need to reconnect. Needed to connect, or I needed to connect.
Yeah. I'm gonna say goodbye to everyone and end the live stream. So, thank you, Sue. Thank you for sharing your wonderful, valuable experience and wisdom with us. And thank you, everyone watching. Really loved having you with us today, or your comments. And I would just say, if you ever have a chance to go and work with Sue in a workshop,
I've got a call. Hello?
you've got a call.
Turning that off.
Great timing.
My God, we knew that would happen. I knew something would happen. Anyway, Barnaby, thank you so much. It's been really lovely and fun.
Thank you, Sue. And thanks, everyone. And go and work with Sue if you ever get the chance. And I'll see you next week. I'm going to be talking to Stephen Nachmanovich next week.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.
Ciao, everybody.